The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yes. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Wednesday, June 25th. And today is a National Parchment Day today, Dale.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to all the rosin makers, I guess, out there, all the hashers out there. Anything you got to say about parchment paper, Jenny Beth?
Jason, keep going.
Okay. It's also National Strawberry Parfait Day. Okay. Yes, a lively group today. It's also National Leon Day today. That's for your Uncle Leon, Jenny Beth.
Shout out to Leon County, Florida, the home of Florida State. Let's go.
Oh, boy. Speaking of National Leon Day, it's also National Catfish Day. So I guess watch out. Don't get catfish today. Oh, man. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are kicking it off with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their lives back on track after they've been victims of the track. That's right, it is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Good morning. Sorry you caught me. I was sending the link to the show out to people so we could get some people in the audience to watch me because, God, how else would they want to start their mornings?
Oh, boy.
To be real. I mean, let's think of a better way, Jason. Don't worry. I'll wait.
Take your time. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, whatever. Absolutely. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, so this is a good one. So a powerful admission from Capitol Hill this week. A top Republican senator says the fight against marijuana is over. During a state Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina declared marijuana opponents have lost the debate. He said it's time to stop pretending prohibition is working and instead regulate cannabis the same way we do alcohol and tobacco. All right, Thom Tillis coming out swinging. Tillis, a longtime Republican voice, acknowledged what's becoming increasingly obvious across party lines. We have lost. We're not regulating it properly. It's just become another distribution channel for the cartels. With nearly 40 states now allowing some form of legal cannabis, Tillis questioned why the federal government continues to treat marijuana as a controlled substance with no accepted medical use. He also urged the DEA to rethink its stance on marijuana classification and called for age restriction, safety-focused policies that recognize reality, not ideology. While the DEA is still reviewing marijuana's federal scheduling, statements like this from conservative lawmakers signal a major shift in the political winds, one that could pave the way for true federal reform. Yay. It's nice to see somebody from the party being reasonable for once. And he's absolutely right. You guys, you have lost the argument. There are accepted medical uses or there wouldn't be medical marijuana programs. So we do need to kind of address this and then figure it out. And I think it's going to take more voices like this, speaking in rooms like this, to make sure that we push the initiative forward. So I'll throw it back to you guys, but we're starting out on a happy this morning.
Oh, look at that.
It's about time that someone from the party of supposed freedom stands up and talks about nonsense of trying, as I say, ideology over reality. Is these laws cannot be enforced. I mean, that was a lesson from alcohol prohibition. When you have laws in the books you can't enforce, what do you get? You get lawlessness, disrespect for law and order, and that's exactly what we have right now.
Oh yeah, a lot of it.
Hey, well, when they accepted Epidiolex as a controlled substance for seizure disorders, it's like that should take away any Schedule I status, period. Can't get that in front of the courts for a multitude of reasons, including delay tactics and other nonsense going on. And Schedule III is just nonsense. I don't see the DEA doing that. It's time to act and get it. If they don't, I suspect the courts, before Clarence Thomas leaves, is going to get hold of a case, pull the plug on the entire Controlled Substances Act, have anything to do with cannabis. You just with a straight face say that there's no medical use and it's highly addictive and only safe under medical supervision. That's horse shit.
Speaking of which, Clarence Thomas, he had a birthday just the other day, whether it was Monday or Tuesday. So happy birthday, Judge Clarence Thomas.
Now, before he dies, let's hope we can do something with his his look at what's the 10th Amendment mean anymore, because it means not a lot.
That's very, very fair. What are your thoughts on this, Shaun? Are you on mute? There we go.
Yeah, I don't want to be, I think sometimes we fall into the trap of complaining. Yeah, well, we complain in the industry. Sometimes people, no matter what happens, you can't make everybody happy. I do believe the Republicans have seen the writing on the wall, have known about it, and that much of what we're seeing in headlines is just the latest PR statement. I think they would be remiss not to already be aligning themselves with the lobbying dollars that they already know very well, which is why they would want to regulate it like alcohol. That, of course, gives me some concern, but we do need to regulate it. It will be coming down the pipe at some point. What? So I'm glad to see that they're not in denial, but I wouldn't see this as like some great beacon of hope. Because all I have come to see both parties do is line their own pockets with their private interests. And then I don't see this industry as being unique in that respect. But I would love for that to be different. So we'll see what happens.
Interesting.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Very, very
I'd love for it to be different. Will it be different? Everyone keep showing up, keep showing up and influencing your legislators. Who the hell knows what could happen?
That is true. You never know what could happen, what is possible, because if you don't try, you're never going to know. That part is very, very true, Shaun. I love this story. When I saw this, I was tickled. I was like, oh, look at this. We got some Republicans doing the right thing. Shout out to Senator Tillis out there in the great state of North Carolina turning up. You know what I mean? I was stoked to see this, and I was just like, this is for all of my naysayer friends that always want to hate on Republicans. A lot of times on this show, this just goes to show you that people can evolve on issues. And so that's all I really have to say on that. This is just the proof in the pudding, you guys.
Well, I'm waiting for action.
Yeah.
A lot of words.
Yeah.
Let's see something get done. And that's where the logjam is that all these factions can't come together and form a coalition to get shit done in Congress right now. And it's frustrating.
It's not just factions in Congress. It's also us a little bit on the industry side. We've got different groups doing different things. I don't think it's being a Debbie Downer. I think it's being very practical in the face of how America operates and how we've seen other commodities industrialized. I'm just practical.
Oh, look, I see how you guys did that. You guys totally tried to reframe that. That's very cute. It's very cute. Practicality.
Well, but we have a history in this industry of the legacy believing they're entitled to be in charge of the industry. Okay.
That's true.
And I don't have a problem with legacy people coming on board. But if you're going to run a business and you can't run a business, I don't know where you think you're going. Because this industry requires that you have business acumen, You understand you're going to have to be leveraged with loans and things like that. There's taxes and regulations. And to think that I'm going to have 15 bud tenders because I want them all to be part of the Kumbaya movement here, it's like, no, you can't run a business like that. And that's where, I mean, I want legacy. I have social equity clients. I want people to be involved. But I've also had clients who have business acumen and who have funding. And they get accused of being the corporate interest. They're big tobacco, they're big alcohol. And what they really are business people, entrepreneurs who are going to risk a lot of money trying to get in this industry. And I don't know that they're the bad guy. I don't know they're the good guy. But thinking you're entitled to anything because in the past you grew weed illegally, I don't know that that gets us anyplace. We need business people involved here. And it's going to, at some point, be a regular business.
But Dale, don't you think that programs like social equity or whatnot teach us that there are entitlements in cannabis?
Well, I mean, that's the argument. And I'm saying I argue it too, because I went to prison. People who went to prison for weed, I don't have a problem, giving them a place in line and assisting them. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. But when you get that and you can't run a business, now where do you go?
I feel you. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to love about open markets is that there's no limitation. You need to remove barriers to entry, but then after that, you have to allow people to either survive or thrive or die off. Like if you don't know what you're doing, then you don't know what you're doing. And as far as like, I understand that we want more for cannabis, but the way the legislators operate and the way these deals are made is very much a system and a pattern. And we're not special, guys. So we need to stop thinking that we are, and we need to get our shit together. We need to band together. We need to stop the ego wars because, I mean, we had someone in the comments who was saying anyone in Texas should be celebrating right now. I'm very happy about the veto, but I am not naive to the fact that now we have to go back and start from ground zero. And if you think that they're not going to try to put stuff in there to try to fuck over the open market, then you are naive and you are wrong. And if you don't prepare, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Very wise words there, Shaun. Very wise words. Jenny Beth, any final words on this?
No.
No? I'm just so excited. Thank you so much, Senator Tillis, for noticing the obvious and not being afraid to speak the truth on this. We definitely applaud your efforts on this so much. And thank you. And on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade. And in a GMP certified facility, so you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
We are back.
Coming up next, the High at 9 head honcho, my favorite buddy, the highest Republican most of the time. Depends on where Dana Rohrabacher is.
So that's the highest.
But
stop it.
Jason Beck.
It's the highest Republican in every room. You know what it is, Jenny Beth. But
Yeah, all right.
nonetheless, Just so you know, normally we cover all strictly news, and I feel like this is, so I just want to give this little bit of a disclaimer. This is a little bit of an editorial piece, I feel, and normally we don't cover these, but I think it's I think this is an important thing to cover, just so that everybody is on the same page and knows how this game works. Because one signature could remove marijuana from Schedule 1 tomorrow, you guys. You believe that? In a never-ending loop of federal marijuana reform debates, one critical fact keeps getting overlooked. The Attorney General has the power to reschedule marijuana right now. No act of Congress, no HHS review, no rulemaking, no marathon, just a signature, you guys. Under 21 U.S.C. 811D1, the AG can unilaterally reschedule marijuana to better align U.S. drug policy with international treaty obligations. Significantly, the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, now, this isn't legal speculation. It's written into the Controlled Substances Act, the CSA itself. And unlike the current and traditional scheduling process under 811A-C, this route bypasses HHS and the need for any medical or scientific review, you guys. There's no need for complex rulemaking or an evidentiary record, and all the AG has to do is believe that rescheduling marijuana to a Schedule 2, 3, 4, 5 better serves U.S. treaty obligations. And yes, the DEA would need to do some light follow-up rulemaking, but that's been done before, and the Office of Legal Counsel has already signed off on it. In other words, AG Pam Bondi could reschedule marijuana tomorrow, and all it would take is a press release and a pen. And I'm going to throw this in there too, is that the reality of it too is she could also deschedule marijuana, which is what she actually needs to do, not any form of rescheduling. But there's treaty compliance, and the pathway is legally justified because the Single Convention, which refers to cannabis, not marijuana, requires that cannabis be controlled by member states to only medical, scientific, and industrial purposes. Such as purposes must, however, ensure the availability of cannabis not referenced specifically but included in the definition of drugs to patients for relief from pain and suffering. The Single Convention doesn't mandate prohibition, it mandates regulation. In 2020, the UN Convention on Narcotic Drugs voted to remove cannabis from Schedule 5, the most restrictive category. That's not true. It's Schedule 1. I don't know why that's there. Must be a typo. Leaving it only in Schedule 1, and that vote acknowledged the therapeutic potential of cannabis. Scheduling under the CSA and scheduling under the Single Convention do not correlate with each other, and yet marijuana remains in a Schedule 1 status on the CSA, a category reserved for substances with no accepted medical use. That contradiction puts the U.S. out of step with its obligations under the Single Convention, and Schedules 2 through 5 under the CSA each acknowledge medical efficiency or efficacy. So the goal of 811D1 is treaty compliance. Rescheduling isn't just permissible, it's arguably required, importantly. And 811D1 makes clear that only the AG's judgment matters when making that call. No scientific support, congressional approval, or public comment is required. And of course, litigation will probably be likely, but immediate benefits would follow. That's right, because as such action would invite lawsuits, some would challenge the AG's authority. Others would argue that 811D1 unconstitutionally delegates domestic policymaking to international organizations. And there's also been arguments here that would have less applicability because criminal penalties would slightly reduce under rescheduling. But while litigation played out, rescheduling would still take effect, and IR Internal Revenue Code 280E would no longer apply, they say. And that's an immediate tax win for state legal businesses because the statutory authority is so clearly laid out. It's unlikely even the most skeptical judge would stay rescheduling through litigation. But let's not forget that the AG could reverse course just as easily, and that's the real weakness of this shortcut. It lacks permanence. In fact, even if marijuana gets rescheduled or descheduled via a full DEA HHS process and lands in Schedule 3, a future AG could use 811D1 to shove it right back into Schedule 1. That's why the long-term reform can't rely solely on executive action. Congress is the only path to stability, you guys. Congressional action remains essential, and it's the only way to prevent policy from swinging with each administration. Congress can revise the treaty obligations, override them, or exit them altogether, and unlike the executive branch, Congress can create a durable legal framework for marijuana that protects the industry from regulatory whiplash. The States Reform Act 2.0 is currently the most viable legalization proposal in Congress, but it too has a gap. It doesn't eliminate the AG's authority under 811D1. A simple amendment could fix this by stating that 811D1 no longer applies to marijuana. Otherwise, even after Congress's action, a future AG could potentially reassert unilateral control, while such congressional action would likely prevail here over the AG's action. It would create confusion and uncertainty while litigation played out, but theoretically, we could even see a similar situation with hemp play out, because the 2018 Farm Bill removed hemp from the definition of marijuana, but it did reference 811D1, and the AG could today place hemp back into Schedule 1. If the marijuana industry wants true stability with taxation and regulatory certainty, Congress must act with specificity. But the problem is that lobbying has failed, and political strategy must evolve, because the marijuana industry has spent millions on traditional lobbying in the past 6 years. And what do we have to show for it? Fragmented state markets, continued 280E applicability, and enforcement of marijuana still as a Schedule 1, and a counterproductive research bill, the Medical Marijuana and Cannabidiol Research Expansion Act, that ultimately will make things worse for researching marijuana. It's time to admit the current approach to lobbying has failed. Well, that's because a lot of the lobbyists are just, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. But nonetheless, the industry needs a new strategy and grounded in political reality that includes reassessing who gets paid for what is uncomfortable. But worth saying, under the current administration, successes might depend less on policy arguments and more on simply writing a check, and success means navigating the political system we have while continuing to build back the one that we want. Yes, and this all sounds cynical, and it is cynical, but it may also be true, because in conclusion, the power to reschedule marijuana or deschedule marijuana already exists, but the industry's path forward depends on more than legal authority. It requires political will. AG action could trigger immediate benefits, but only Congress can provide lasting certainty. Traditional lobbying has failed to move the needle, and it's time for the industry to engage more strategically. If marijuana stakeholders want real reform, they must act decisively. Maybe it's time for the industry to play the political game as it is, and not we wish it were. Well, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Shots fired every which way and that way. What do you got to say?
Pew, 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 pew. I mean, yeah, it's time for somebody to step up and do it. There is unilateral decision making in some parts of our government, and this doesn't need to be something that takes us forever. We need to hem and haw about it. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem, right? When it comes into lobbying dollars, and it comes into how we're traditionally trying to attack this. Politicians have a stake in keeping this fight going, right? Because then we're going to pour more money into their campaigns. We're going to pour more money into lobbying towards whatever their special interests are, to try and get things passed and try and get a favorable stance on cannabis policy. So we kind of have to find a way to approach this. It's different than what we've done before. A lot of cannabis lobbying just doesn't fucking work.
Well, you know what, Jenny Beth?
Don't know if it's what, Jason.
You know, I'll go ahead. Please finish.
Oh, I was hoping the stream didn't die, because I was like, why is Jason cutting me off?
No.
Yeah.
Because
don't know if it's a lobbyist, don't know if it's a strategy, don't know if it's a combination of the two, but there are a lot of people that are making a lot of money based on saying that they can get things passed through, and there's been no proof in the pudding. Mm-hmm. I've introduced XYZ, certain number of bills and certain number of things and certain number of policies. The dog don't hunt for me. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I told the Hawaiian government that, because they're sitting there with senators that are looking for re-election on a panel, and I'm speaking to them and I'm like, I sit here and I hear your accolades, and I went and Googled to see who was up for re-election this year, and damn near all of you guys. I don't want to hear what you've done that hasn't succeeded. That is not a feather in your cap. When I look at someone, or when I try to present myself for an opportunity, I show a proven track record of success. I don't say, hey, I've attempted 57 projects, 4 of them took off. That's not my track record, by the fucking way, but that's a great example. So I'm sick of hearing about what people are doing and giving them tens of thousands of dollars to talk about what they might get done or how they could try to get something finished. Like, we need to push this across the finish line. We need to do something we haven't done. It's time to figure out a better way to flip this shit on its head.
Fair enough.
100% agree with Jenny as a pro. I lobby. This is what, and we saw that some of these things can work in Texas, but I do it as a public servant. You know, I was a military veteran. I have some weird fetish for serving my country. But here's the deal. When I started this work, I brought over the experience that Uncle Sam trained me in for 13 years. And the first thing that I noticed was a lack of results. Jenny is absolutely right. And I couldn't for the life of me put together why cannabis companies would continue to invest in things that didn't produce results, whether it came down to marketing, PR, or lobbying efforts. And it was so abysmal and disappointing because it seems like everyone got used to kicking the can and they kept kicking the can. And now it actually fucking matters. And it's beyond absurd because Jenny's right. Who cares about the feathers in your caps if you're not getting anything done now, right? So whatever we did in the past doesn't matter if the tables are turning now. And it takes us showing up with real effort. Why did things change a bit in Texas? Because it was a grassroots movement. And it was led by a company that was built here in Texas and organizations that are, you know, the Texas Cannabis Collective, Hometown Hero. All of these people came together organically and tried to figure it out. And were there fractures and fractions among the different coalitions? Yes. But for the reason why it worked is because it's a grassroots movement that speaks to the people. And I think folks have fallen so far out of touch with this, playing silly political games and getting nothing absolutely done. And I'm sorry, as an older millennial, I'm on 4 decades of watching this bullshit. I'm quite over it. You know, let's do better.
Go for it, Dale.
Well, we're in the middle of a redefining of executive power. And I understand that the Controlled Substances Act gives the AG a lot of authority here. Moving it up and down the schedule or out of the schedule doesn't fix the fact that I think 841 makes marijuana a federal crime. And you still have minimum mandatories. The AG can't fix that, okay? And I appreciate that she could do something. And to be blunt, if Donald Trump wanted this to be done, he could send her a memo and she'd do it today. So I don't know what the reluctance is, the upper echelons now to actually take action here. Does require the Congress, the Article 1 power, to step in and fix all of the places where cannabis or marijuana appears in the federal law and just get that shit out of there. That's going to take the Congress. I mean, Pam Bondi could do some things right now.
Well, here's the thing.
Might be bold. I don't see anybody pushing her to do that.
Dale, we were going to have Attorney General Matt Gaetz before Pam Bondi, and the whole cannabis industry got all up in arms, and he was going to deschedule cannabis as one of his day one agendas. And the whole cannabis industry flipped out and freaked out. And, oh, no, Matt can't be the DA, da-da-da-da-da. And like,
but he's not. She and Pam Bondi is, and her record does not indicate that she will at all move in favor of a deschedule or a reschedule. I'm not sure. Like, we have to just.
If she gets told to do that, she'll do that. Don't get it twisted.
If someone gets told, but we're really busy right now. You know,
we are really busy.
Iran, Israel, we've got shit going on. I am sorry, guys. I don't think cannabis registers, and when it does, it's going to be leaning towards regulatory capture.
I'm not buying into that last part, but I do believe the first part is that we are pretty busy. We do get a lot of stuff going on, but I'm not buying into that because Trump is the one that created the Farm Bill in the first place and created this wide open market, and so I'm not buying into all of the regulatory capture components.
I would love to be surprised, and I can admit I was surprised in Texas. So
exactly. Exactly. You'll be surprised again. You know what I'm saying? We're going to keep surprising people every day over here on High 9 News. Sean?
Let's not take it away, Jason, but he signed the Farm Bill. He didn't create the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is something that's, you know, come on now, Jason.
Fair enough, Jenny Beth. Fair enough. He signed it.
In the comments, somebody somewhere is going to be like,
I don't care about the comments like that, Jenny Beth. It's not a big deal. It's not that big of a deal.
I mean, Donald Trump has issued a ton of executive orders. Many of them have been challenged. Well, most of them have been challenged in the courts. Some success, some not so successful. We're redefining all this. Cannabis has been illegal. Marijuana has been illegal in the United States for goddamn near 90 years now. Come on. This is embedded in people's psyche. It's ideologically driven. And our previous story about Tillis, come on, we've lost the ideological war here. People look more like tobacco and alcohol here. What are we going to do about this? There are places in our federal government where there is zero accountability. And I think that was one of Elon Musk's biggest pushes. Let's get accountability here. Okay? Why is this not made legal? Okay, who's at the heart of this? Who's stopping it? Some of the problems I have with these organizations that are promoting lobbying the government is that they tend to exist.
Dale, you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head right there, because I already put in the comments, 90% of federal cannabis lobbyists don't have an interest in an overall solution, because then they would be out of a freaking job.
Boo. Move on to a new issue. We're supposed to be like making things better. There's so many ways that we can reform how we approach lawmaking in the United States and then how we execute it. And I think we just need to start reinventing the wheel a little bit, but that will take time. It'll just take time and a lot of frustration and a continued pattern of what we've been experiencing. Do
you want to finish your thoughts, Dale?
Well, at some point, they'll look at us and go, you guys are right all along. Okay? This is a battle that's been going on for, I was in high school when the Controlled Substances Act was passed. Was it 55 years ago? We're still engaged in this. I've been involved in cannabis law since Prop 215 passed, and we still haven't figured all this shit out. So there's deep-seated interests that don't want this to succeed. They may publicly say certain things, but I'm into result. I don't care what you say. I want to see what you do. We have zero accountability for this shit not getting done. I think we're all tired of hearing rhetoric just so that I can have something to talk about to get reelected. I'm interested in getting shit done. And there's zero accountability from these people. But we got to admit that cannabis is not the biggest issue facing our country.
Very, very true.
Our own industry. Oh, this is existential. It's all about this. Yeah. But as Shaun pointed out, we've got ourselves our foots over the line in some wars around the world right now, and they're chasing immigrants everywhere, causing all sorts of upheaval, and do you like it or not, a lot of issues involved with that. You got idiots shooting each other, blowing shit up, and there's a lot of other issues besides cannabis, and the bottom line is they can't enforce prohibitions against cannabis. I just hate to see anybody exposed to going to jail, losing life, liberty, or property over these marijuana laws when they really can't enforce them. That is the reality. I think Tillis finally let's put it on the table. Well, we're for freedom. Why in the fuck are we doing this?
Yeah, much love to Senator Tillis. Great job. Thank you for coming out and stating this. And on that, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He's represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet and nasty, but he is honest and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinion, and general overall everyone's opinion. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, as your favorite Tio Loco. You can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's your favorite Tio Loco, and as I tell Jenny, your favorite full of shiticus here.
Yeah.
My story today comes out of marijuana movement. The headline is House to vote on letting VA doctors recommend medical marijuana to military veterans and supporting psychedelics research. This comes from, it's Kyle Yeager. Let me just move this. Yeah, this is Kyle Yeager from yesterday. Now, this story, the House part of it for cannabis comes from Brian Mast and Dave Joyce. These are two Republicans. Mast is from Florida, Joyce is from Ohio. And they're co-chairs of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. Mast is a double amputee. He's a veteran. Got blown up. I'm going to assume over in the Middle East. He didn't go into where he was. But like Shaun, I'm a veteran. Okay. I'm also a disabled veteran. I receive medical care through the VA. And so this is something that piques my interest. Okay. Because right now there's a directive out there that VA doctors cannot fill out paperwork and help you get involved in these state medical marijuana programs. I think that's wrong. Last time I went to the VA, they wanted to do a drug test on me. My response was, show me a fucking warrant. Because I had to piss in a bottle during Golden Flow back in Vietnam. I had to piss in a bottle for the DEA when I was, under supervision. I'll be goddamned if I'm pissing in a bottle for a drug test for anybody, unless you can explain to me you either got a warrant or give me the medical necessity for why you got to drug test me. There are still some serious downsides being found a cannabis user. There's gun rights involved. There's still potential problems with the VA. I have no idea what they're going to do. But the approach that these two have is like Rohrabacher did back in 2014, is that our recommendation is the amendment. You can't spend any money enforcing these prohibitions of doctors stocking with cannabis patients honestly and help them fill out paperwork. We're not going to spend any money. Now, this is a proposed rider, and I don't know how far it's going to get, but I'm happy to see they're trying a novel approach. We can't get Congress to do the big enchilada here, so maybe we can get them to pass a spending prohibition within the VA, go after doctors who do this. Because as Shaun knows well, I mean, I was diagnosed with PTSD, not all of it from service connected, but cannabis works well. Helps you sleep. It helps deal with those intrusive thoughts. There's a lot of things that it does. And, their suicide rate's still up around 20 veterans a month. This is a lot. And we owe it to them. When we strapped on the uniform and swore an oath, we gave our bodies up to the government. Some of them paid a hell of a lot more price than I did. I worked in a hospital, took care of people blown up and burned and shit like that. I didn't go out and dodge bullets. I have max respect for people who did that. And when they get the shit blown out of them, or when they come back and they really have their psyches damaged, these invisible wounds, we have an obligation to our veterans to do whatever we can to help them. And the stance by the VA that we won't let doctors do this is just ridiculous. Now, the other part of this is Lou Carrera, who's a Democrat from California, and Jack Bergman, who's a Republican from Michigan.
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah.
I love Jack.
They are pushing an amendment to allow psychedelic therapy. I mean, they're already looking into this for research, but they want the VA to provide psychedelic therapy. I can also tell you from my representation of vets and my own experience, psychedelics are very helpful with a lot of vets who suffer from the silent wounds of PTSD. And we need to act upon this to allow veterans, with the assistance of their physicians, where you can actually be honest with them, follow up, and develop therapies here to help people deal with PTSD. PTSD is the silent killer amongst vets right now. We are definitely not doing enough to facilitate their use of these proven therapies. And that's the problem that we have with the government trying to prohibit this. You can go back to the 1950s and find ample research that psychedelics are more effective for depression than any of these goddamn antidepressants that they're developed. This needs to be looked at, not just, let's talk about it. No, let's get the research going. Let's get the therapies in place. I mean, you can use ketamine right now, for God's sakes, okay? It's a legal drug. Why can't we use psilocybin, LSD? There's a number of other proven therapies here that we have an obligation to make available to our veterans. So I'm going to throw this back at you now, but I'm hopeful that this is bipartisan. We can actually get some movement now to help our veterans, because too many of them are just off in themselves, because the system is just causing them to fight more battles at home they should not have to be fighting. Back to you guys.
Shaun, you want to take this first, being a veteran yourself?
Sure. I am also rated. I'm happy to disclose some of my condition. I like wake up every day, my hands and feet are numb. I can't feel them. It's because I was a combat camera journalist, so we used to just deploy and attach with units. So it's kind of funny because often the female veterans are overlooked in the VA healthcare system, and we have a whole other litany of issues. But so I'm rated, and I avoid the VA like the plague. Because I can't disclose this information. And I mean, I have after my temporary retirement became permanent, but in that whole period of time, was I concerned about repercussions or being recalled or like being able to treat the degenerative neuro condition that I have because of my time overseas? Or the migraines, the chronic migraines with aura, you know, it's tricky. There's like, this is a good thing, but also do I have like a little bit of hesitation about letting VA specific physicians run these programs? Absolutely, because I've worked in the psychedelics industry, and there is a huge difference between someone who knows what they're doing when they're providing psychedelic assisted therapy, which is different from shamanic experiences. So there's a whole multitude of layers of how do we evaluate treatment when it comes to veterans, and how do we do it where we can blend modalities to get the actual treatment, because it's really dependent on the person. Like if they're seeking that spiritual experience, perhaps a more shamanic setting would be appropriate. But how are the VA doctors going to know all of this? Just like they're not cannabis experts. You know, or if they're more on the Western medicine side, like we're seeing with some of the older patients who are going to these psychedelic mushroom retreats in spaces where it's legal. You know, I've mentioned Michael Meditations in Jamaica. They want to have somewhat more of a westernized experience, a Western therapeutic experience, because it's what they understand. It's what resonates. And that's the thing about psychedelics. It opens your pathways to what is working for you. And also what you can probably let go of, but I'm going to not digress into that. We have to consider also like the history that the VA knows all of this. The government knows all of this. They did the research with LSD back in the 60s. They did other research as well. They dosed people without permission and consent. So they're aware of what these medicines can.
Oh,
yeah.
Lost her. Oh,
I think
That's cute. You know, you got to be careful what you talk about. There are programs that they participate in.
Hunter Biden strikes again.
So there were programs, and I do have some reservations about the VA and the federal government administering these programs without any kind of oversight. We should definitely have that, especially because we know how influenced people can be when under with psychedelics, and you are in a very open space. And so it's a good thing, but also let's be measured. Let's bring in some experts. There are experts in the field of psychedelics and cannabis when we are ready to get there, and the other substances as well. We can bring in experts and we can figure out the best pathway that is not only going to produce the highest efficacy, but is also sustainable. I do like mushrooms for this because unlike DMT or ibogaine, we're not looking at harming other living creatures or populations that might already be endangered. You know, we're seeing this happen with ayahuasca. With psilocybin, it can be grown by spores and just everywhere, and it can be very helpful. Same with cannabis, also another helpful nutraceutical. We need to reframe how we look at these plants and how we're using them in the field of medicine. But overall, this is a good thing. We just need to be careful we don't slippery slope this. But the VA has it's got a lot that it needs to fix.
Interesting. Well, you know, Doug has been working. He put out a statement yesterday saying how they have been been really ramping up the VA and processing claims and everything at a much faster rate than any other VA administration has. So shout out to Doug Collins and his work over there. And I do know that he is has an open mind to these types of therapies for veterans. And so I am hoping to see some more progress in this space. And this was some good news today, Dale, I think overall that you brought us.
Well, and I saw a comment by Bobby Kennedy that he feels you can have therapies in place within 12 months.
Yeah.
Now, that may be an aggressive time frame. I don't know. But as Shaun knows, there are a lot of people out there who have expertise in this area. Mm-hmm. And we need them to come together, work on protocols, and see if we can implement some protocols. Because a lot of people mushrooms is a classic. They microdose a lot on mushrooms. They may take your doses, and hopefully they've got guides to help them. DMT requires some guides. Others required guides to help them. But if we go clear back to the Rockefeller age, he was instrumental in taking plant-based medicines out of circulation in place of pharmaceuticals as a way to enhance his petroleum business. We still suffer from that, okay? And we need to get rid of that mindset. And it's not just chemicals that somebody patents that are good for human beings. Humans have been using these plant products, cannabis and psychedelic mushrooms, things like that, as far back as we have recorded time. And you have to assume they didn't just find this 10,000 BC. Yeah. People were eating mushrooms, using cannabis well before that. Ergot is a classic. It's mold on rye. That's where LSD comes from. Ergotamine, and those preparations are very old. So we have a long history of this. That medical community goes, oh, I just can't consider these people used to do this. Well, why the fuck not? The definition of drug is a Dutch word, which means dried plant. Droog, okay? Drugs were dried plants until Rockefellers and their ilk got a hold of them with the help of German pharmaceutical companies. And they developed all these products that are patentable, and they didn't want you to think about nutraceuticals or other plant-based medicines. Well, that needs to all go away because that is so ancient times. We have modern thinking, modern understanding. I'd like to know the pathophysiological mechanism, how they work. In the meantime, I've seen the evidence that they actually do work. So let's get this shit in place and figure this stuff out as we go. I
totally agree with you, Dale. I'm with you 100% on that. And hopefully we will have some things, and we'll make sure that we're covering all the latest developments here on High at 9 News. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back. There we go. And we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button, smash that like button, and of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover today, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And make sure you go into the description below and check out all the sponsors that help make the show possible every day. And use the link to order yourself a case of Liberal Tears energy beverage, 150 milligrams of caffeine in every can, 0 grams of sugar. And Shaun, just so you know, I promise that no snowflakes were harmed in the making of this product.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
We are back, you guys. Coming up next, it is Miss Shaun Salvaje. She's a veteran. She's a mom. She's a mediator that can help you stay out of court and maybe possibly out of a lawsuit and saving some money on Dale's legal bills. That's right, it is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
Yeah, if you thought your attorney's hourly rate was harsh, wait till you see what they'll charge you for a trial.
Yeah. Love a good trial.
U.S. House Committee approves a bill to close THC. This is the title of the article, friends. Don't at me. The THCA loophole ban intoxicating hemp products. So this whole argument that we've been having in Texas now coming to you nationwide. The House Appropriations Committee included a provision. This is coming from the Cannabis Business Times, by the way. The House Appropriations Committee included a provision to redefine hemp and regulate finished products in a must-pass spending bill. Brought to you by Tony Lang. U.S. House Republicans advanced what many view as a hemp-killing provision in a must-pass appropriations bill for fiscal year 2026. The House Appropriations Committee voted along party lines 35-27 on June 23rd to approve the Agriculture, Rural Development, Food and Drug Administration and related agencies appropriations bill. This is how everybody gets funded. These appropriations bills. Do you guys remember, the National Defense Authorization Act?
Mm-hmm.
Every time we get, what's that word? It used to happen all the time. What's that? Where they temporarily furlough everybody and they put the government
government shutdown.
It's a shutdown. There's a specific word, but every time it happens, it's because there's little details that we're adding into these bills. So this appropriations bill, it makes sense that you'd be like, why would that affect how the law is operated? But this is how everything is funded, and they stick things in here. It's one of the easier ways to get something passed, actually. The 138-page spending bill includes more than $25 billion in discretionary allocations to address a myriad of issues facing U.S. farmers, ranchers, and rural communities. In addition to focusing on America's food and drug supply, this year's bill also includes language to rewrite the rules around hemp-derived cannabinoid products. The provision aims to address what elected officials and law enforcement groups nationwide have increasingly viewed as a public health and safety concern in the aftermath of the 2018 Farm Bill's federal legalization of industrial hemp cultivation. The 2018 Farm Bill regulates hemp as an agricultural commodity, but not finished goods containing the plant's derivatives. Under the Appropriation Committee's fiscal 2026 legislation, hemp-derived cannabinoid products containing synthetic compounds or quantifiable amounts of THC or THCA. Remember that formula I gave you guys a while back? THCA times 0.77. Or other cannabinoids that have similar effects on humans or animals would be illegal. So when the legislation first advanced through the House Subcommittee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Food and Drug FDA administration on June 5th, Rep. Andy Harris, a Republican out of Maryland, said he was hoping to close the hemp loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill that has resulted in the proliferation of intoxicating cannabinoid products, such as those that contain Delta-8 THC, among other deltas, and THCA. Harris, who chairs the subcommittee, provided similar opening remarks for the full committee markup that followed. And this is coming from Maryland, guys, not a state like Texas. As many states have stepped in to curb these dangerous products from reaching consumers, particularly children, it's time for Congress to act to close this loophole while protecting the industrial hemp industry. Harris said reports that the included language would destroy legitimate businesses are simply not true. Well, they said that in Texas too, but that was a lie. And that is clear to anyone closely reading the carefully drafted language that threaded the needle. That sounds a little, when they say things like that, I get nervous. It means they thought about it. The U.S., that means they had a strategy to get this leaning in one direction in their favor. The U.S. Hemp Roundtable accused Harris earlier of, and here we go, earlier this month of reviving his crusade to quietly dismantle the hemp industry by burying language on page 113 of the proposed spending bill that would redefine hemp in a way that would ban the vast majority of safe, legal hemp-derived products sold nationwide. The industry advocacy organization contended that the bill's inclusion of language to prohibit products with quantifiable amounts of THC or THCA would also effectively ban most non-intoxicating CBD products. This is kind of what we ran into with Texas. They tried to say exclusively CBD and CBG, which would have meant isolates, which is so far from the natural plant, and it means no other. Scientifically, and it's impossible. You can't, horticulturally, you can't achieve that, not in nature. So Renee Johnson, a specialist in agriculture policy with the Nonpartisan Congressional Research Service, the CRS, authored a June 13th report on the appropriations bill that backed the claim, writing that excluding hemp-derived cannabinoid product from the federal definition of hemp effectively would prohibit production and sale of hemp-derived cannabinoids, derivatives, and extracts thereof, including cannabidiol, CBD, because otherwise you have to manufacture the isolate. This is what sucks when you don't have experts in the room helping legislators to write the laws. So, however, an updated version of Johnson's CRS report was published on June 20th to exclude any mention of CBD. So then they try to go back and erase it, and it's because they don't understand the nuance sometimes. Manufacturing hemp products with purified CBD isolate that filters out even trace amounts of THCA is a much more expensive process. Under the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp can contain up to 0.3% Delta-9 THC on dry weight basis during a pre-harvest field test, but eliminating that potency threshold would change the compliance rules on finished goods. The House Appropriations Committee approved a manager's amendment from Harris on June 11th, clarifying that in determining the quantifiable amounts, the committee does not intend for industrial or non-intoxicating hemp-derived cannabinoid products with trace or insignificant amounts of THC to be affected. They said that to the farmers here too, but Governor Abbott just explained that that's impossible. It's impossible to enforce. And we have to stop. We have to create legislation. So yes, you're still under attack, guys. It's in the appropriations bill. It always is. It's always in the bill with the money. The House Appropriations Committee approved a manager's amendment from Harris on June 11th, classifying, we just said that it wouldn't be effective, but we know that's always bullshit in execution. Legislation authorizes the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services to determine what qualifies as quantifiable amounts of THC or other cannabinoids. In addition, industrial hemp grown for fiber, grain, or other non-cannabinoid purposes would be defined separately. While thousands of U.S. businesses have become dependent on manufacturing, distributing, and selling consumable products containing the intoxicating hemp derivatives, not all industry associations necessarily disagree with the intent of this appropriations bill. Sounds like we've got some fractures. The American Trade Association of Cannabis and Hemp, ATACH, stands on the principle that intoxicating products should be regulated when available for consumers to improve public safety and promote growth for the cannabis industry. That sounds reasonable. The 2018 Farm Bill set the stage for the proliferation of synthetic THC products. ATACH President Michael Bronstein said in a June 23rd statement provided to the Cannabis Business Times, today's actions by the House Appropriations Committee is an important first step toward addressing the risk posed by synthetic THC products, creating clear regulatory lanes for hemp-derived products, and resolving legal loopholes. Congress must confront the dangers of chemically altered, converted synthetic THC products, safeguard CBD, and create parity across natural THC products regardless of origin. We look forward to working with Congress to create a unified federal framework for all natural THC products. Interesting. Harris also included similar hemp language in his subcommittee's draft of the fiscal 2025 agriculture FDA spending bill, but it was later removed from last year's appropriations package. This year's rendition is now being prepared to arrive on the House floor. So this is already happening. This is in movement. What do you guys think?
Well,
reaction is not going to fix this. This is reactive legislation. When they passed the hemp bill, the industry showed its hand. They left a large loophole you could drive a truck through.
I don't know about
that. They drove the truck through and they set up their businesses. And now, how do you pull this back? I mean, that really is the problem. And hemp, I don't know how they got this so confused. Hemp was grown for fiber, for seed. marijuana was grown for cannabinoids. And so somebody decided artificially, let's draw a line somewhere. The definitions were so ludicrous from a biochemical standpoint that there's this huge loophole. Now there's an entire industry. And I think Greg Abbott figured out that the people making campaign donations and talking in my ear are making shitloads of money. And it's basically cannabis industry. It's not hemp. I mean, you can argue over the definitions, but until we get experts together, try to put together a comprehensive plan to do this, I don't know how you put the genie back in the bottle here. This is just crazy because there's way too much money being made. And it just once again points out my statement, you cannot control this industry. Prohibitionary laws don't work. You can take every cop in the country, put them on hemp and cannabis enforcement. It's a fucking waste of time, and real crime will just proliferate. You need to sit down on a bipartisan basis and figure out hemp is something, fibers, seeds, shit like that. Cannabis is something totally different, and make sure there's clear definitions and let all the intoxicating hemp products be part of the cannabis industry. Hemp, let the farmers in Illinois grow 20-foot tall plants that you can make rope and clothes and shit out of and feed the seeds to cows. And this is just, it's insane what they continue to do here.
There's a big problem with that, though, Dale.
We need more rope for Dale to piss up, Jason. Like, that's not a debate.
There's a bigger problem at hand, Jenny Beth.
Which is what, Jason?
The bigger problem at hand is that America, we don't have the manufacturing facilities built out in order to take on those products and convert those into those products. That's the bigger problem.
Jason, we do have a lot of manufacturing facilities that are absolutely capable of milling hemp and creating the fiber products that need to be created.
No, we don't.
We absolutely do have the facilities to make things like hempcrete, which is much more sustainable. We absolutely do have the farmland to grow the hemp that replaces deforestation way quicker than any pine tree you're ever going to plant. We do. We just don't want to do it, Jason.
I love pine trees.
Is the question, do we have commercial investment? Then Dale, to one point that you made about it should go to the hemp doesn't want to go to the marijuana side because you guys have 280E, you have problems.
Yeah, exactly.
They want you guys to come over here. They say it's all
I'm with that. Yeah, come on over to this side, guys. It's way sunnier.
I don't want to go over there. It smells weird over there. You know what I mean?
You know, it's all cannabis is what they say.
There's too many kids in the sandbox over there. I don't want to go over there.
Listen, I worked on both sides, and I think that each needs to stay in their fucking lane, right? Hemp is an amazing plant. A lot of things can be done with it. A lot of textiles, a lot of fibers, a lot of everything can be done, right? I think that CBD is something that's very important that everybody should take every day, just like you take any other multivitamin, just because it is going to help maintain and regain the homeostasis between your nervous system and the rest of your body, right? That's how it feeds it. However, intoxicating cannabinoids come from marijuana, right? Hemp needs to figure out hemp's lane. If you want to play in the intoxicating cannabinoid fucking playground, then guess what? You got to pay 280E. You got to do these things. So I think that there needs to be.
I don't know.
You gotta do it because that's how it was done. I think that's why they want to bring folks over. Because here's how it was explained to me when I was argued. And I went through a similar thought process, and they explained it. Here's how they broke it down. Cynthia Cabrera broke it down this way. Marijuana was defined by that percentage of dry weight, right? And so what y'all have developed in those states with adult use markets is an adult use marijuana industry, which is a legal definition. It's all cannabis, right?
Yep. It's all cannabis sativa L under the Controlled Substances Act.
There you go. And so what the farmers have realized, and the smaller businesses who couldn't do the multi-million-dollar things, this is a legacy market emerging in kind of weird ways, but kind of amazing too. And just like to the spirit of industriousness, holy shit, America. But now we do have to figure out how to regulate it because some people were a bit over industrious and inconsiderate of consumers. Like, you can't sell to kids. We gotta market this appropriately. We got to package it appropriately. There's got to be some, restrictions and some health and safety. It's got to be regulated. You can't be killing folks out there with bad products. And that's why, but I think it's not that they're against the adult use markets in these illegal states. It's that nobody wants to start at where you guys started. If we can start over here, you know, and we want to bring it over here. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. I don't blame them. No one wants to pay erroneous taxes and erroneous licensing fees and things like that. And people just want to have businesses and, you know what I'm saying, create good products that help people. And I agree with you, Shaun. I agree with you on that.
That breaks our heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, on that, I think we're going to go into a company that makes amazing products, and we're going to roll into our next commercial. We're going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
I know, right?
People are still smoking lots of tumbleweed out there in Texas. You know where else there's some tumbleweed at is in Nebraska, you guys, because Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission considers a partnership with DHHS as July 1st deadline looms, you guys. That's right. The Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission is facing uncertainty about the requirements it will establish to license medical cannabis operations by this fall, with a critical July 1st, 2025 deadline approaching for defining application criteria. The commission tasked with regulating medical cannabis following voter approval in November of 2024 is set to hold its next meeting on Thursday, June 26th, marking the first gathering with all 5 commissioners. However, with less than 48 hours until the meeting, the specific criteria under consideration remains unclear. The commission is contemplating a memorandum of agreement with the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services and DHHS CEO Steve Corsi, Policy Research Director Kenny Zoller, and Dr. Monica Oldenburg, who chairs the Medical Cannabis Commission. If approved at Thursday's meeting, this partnership would facilitate the commission's work. Oldenburg did not respond to a request for comment prior to the meeting, and state law mandates that the commission establish licensing criteria by July 1st of 2025 and begin issuing licenses by October 1st of 2025, as outlined in 2 ballot measures overwhelmingly approved by Nebraska voters. To meet this tight timeline, commissioners have indicated they may adopt draft or emergency criteria to process licensing applications after July 1st through the October 1st deadline, and also applies to enacting or other medical cannabis requirements. The Nebraska Attorney General's office, led by Attorney General Mike Hilgers, has vowed to sue the Medical Cannabis Commission if it proceeds with licensing, arguing that such actions conflict with federal law. And despite this, spokesperson Suzanne Gage stated on Tuesday, June 24th, 2025, that the office will provide legal support and guidance to the commission as it does for other state agencies and commissions. Public engagement remains a priority for the commission, and with advocates like Krista Eggers of Nebraska Medical Marijuana emphasizing the need for transparency, Eggers expressed frustration with the process, stating, "At some point, I do believe that lawmakers and state officials who are doing everything in their power to stand in the way of this and to ignore the voice of the people, to stand in the way of the will of the people, I do believe they lose at some point, but at this point, they're winning, and Nebraskans should be absolutely disgusted with how this is being handled," she says. The Medical Cannabis Commission's meeting is scheduled for 10 a.m. on Thursday and in the first floor hearing room of the Nebraska State Office Building located at 301 Centennial Mall South in Lincoln. And the public is invited to attend this commission and navigates these critical steps toward implementing Nebraska's medical cannabis program, you guys. Man, oh man, they got some shit brewing in Nebraska. They got a big old fight. They can't decide who is going to enforce on what. And all of a sudden, then you have the Attorney General that says, no matter what you guys do, I'm going to sue you guys if you implement any of it. I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this, Dale.
10th Amendment. Let me keep ringing that bell.
Yeah.
10th Amendment. The Controlled Substances Act did not give exclusive jurisdiction to the federal government over cannabis or marijuana. States have their own rights under the 10th Amendment to pass public health safety laws. And that's what they've done. We had this battle years ago, in 2008, I think it was, where there was a challenge to state law because it's against federal law. And our court said, yeah, too bad. We are not changing federal law. These are state laws. And the two do not mix. So that argument really doesn't, that dog doesn't hunt very well. No, I'm sorry. And this is the problem I see, is that the voters are making it clear, we want this shit to get done. Okay? There are always emergency regulation procedures in place in these states. But emergency regulations in place only deal with state law. And let the AG try to sue him. I don't think he has the authority to put federal law in place in a state. That's a strictly federal function. I agree with you. I tell this Attorney General, to kiss my ass. Go ahead. Where are you going to go to federal court and say, oh, the states can't pass a law under the 10th Amendment? No, I don't think that one's going to work very well. And the public health and safety, no one's ever died from using weed. Just fucking stop it. Okay? The highways aren't blood red from people driving under the influence. It's not. The sky didn't fall. Quit dragging this shit up. And, maybe just call us bluff. Pass the laws and say, okay, Mr. Attorney General, go file your suit. You're going to go to federal court or state court. Your jurisdiction. And then tell them to, all right, go ahead. We've done it. You respond, and let's go to court.
Pick your turf, right, Dale?
Yeah.
Do you think it's that, and do you think it's also like they're just putting the wrong people in these positions to actually get shit done?
No, they're just being prohibitionists. They're being prohibitionists, but they do have some of the wrong people in these positions. Some of these people that are in these positions in Nebraska definitely are prohibitionists. That part is true, and so they are trying to kind of screw the pooch while they're trying to create the program at the same time. So that there is some truth to that, Shaun. But I ultimately want to, like I said, Dale, I want to see them issue out these licenses, and I want to see what the Attorney General really does. I want to see these people, the people in Nebraska, call the AG's bluff on this one.
Yeah. Put up or shut up.
Yep. Exactly. Put up these licenses. Let's see what happens. Any thoughts, Jenny Beth?
Just another example of a government going against the will of its constituents. But hey, I feel like I'm getting tired of saying that.
Well, Jenny, this is cannabis, and you're probably going to have to say that again and again and again.
Oh,
and again.
Is it? Oh boy. Yep. I had no idea.
I know.
Take a sip of Diet Coke and mull that one over.
Hide the kids, keep them away from gummies, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Speaking of all of that stuff, you guys, man, I have one other final story for you. And Jenny,
is it a happy one?
Maybe.
Son of a bitch.
Maybe it might be happy.
Talk about my mom like that, okay?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you look at it. You know what I'm saying? Some people could say it's a happy story. Some people could say it's a terrible story. But I think it's all in whether or not is your glass half full or half empty, Jenny Beth.
My Diet Coke's half full.
Okay. All right. Well, in a quote, they say, "We are going to push pause on Ohio marijuana legalization," says a Republican lawmaker. Ohio lawmakers will likely go on summer break without making any changes to the state's marijuana law, a Republican state representative said on Tuesday. For the second week in a row, Ohio Senate Bill 56 was up for a possible vote out of the Ohio House Judiciary Committee, but both times the vote did not take place. Once the bill is voted out of committee, it can be brought to the House floor for a vote, and the Senate passed the bill back in February. Last week, the bill was removed from the committee agenda, and this week, the committee meeting, which only had SB 56 on the agenda, was canceled. In a quote, "We are going to push pause," State Representative Brian Stewart, Republican from Asheville, said when asked about the marijuana bill. "We're going to take the summer and come back and potentially take another crack at it," he says. Ohio House Speaker Matt Huffman, Republican from Lima, said the Senate raised more than a dozen issues related to SB 56 last week, and in a quote says, "I just told my caucus we're not going to just say okay because we're so anxious to pass the marijuana bill, which I'd like to get it done, but we're not going to give up House priorities to do that," he said last week. The lawmakers are currently working on the state's 2-year operating budget, which Ohio Governor Mike DeWine must sign before July 1st, and the lawmakers will go on summer break after the budget is finished. SB 56 would reduce the THC levels in adult-use marijuana extracts from a maximum of 90% down to a maximum of 70%, limit the number of active dispensaries to 400, and prohibit smoking in most public places. It would keep Ohio's home grow the same on a limit of 6 plants per person and 12 plants per residence, and State Senator Steve Huffman, a Republican from Tip City, introduced the bill in January, and the bill originally would have limited Ohio's home grow from 12 plants down to 6. Ohioans passed a citizen-initiated law to legalize adult-use marijuana back in 2023 with 57% of the vote, and sales started in August 2024, and Ohio lawmakers can change the law since it passed as a citizen's initiative, not a constitutional amendment. In a quote, "The people of Ohio spoke very clearly on this issue," said Ohio House Minority Leader Danny Iskonison, Democrat from Cincinnati. "They knew what they were voting on, and they voted to pass adult-use cannabis here in the great state of Ohio." But there's also intoxicating hemp products because the House has made significant changes to SB 56, most notably adding regulations to intoxicating hemp products. As the bill currently stands, only a licensed marijuana dispensary would be able to sell intoxicating hemp products that have been tested and complied with packaging, labeling, and advertising requirements, and the Ohio Department of Commerce would regulate intoxicating hemp products and drinkable cannabinoid products. Grocery stores, carry-out stores, bars, and restaurants would continue to be able to sell drinkable cannabinoid products. And Isaac Cohen agrees that there should be regulations around intoxicating hemp products, but wants it to happen through a clean bill, he says. In a quote, "It is so tied up in trying to overturn the will of the voters," he said. "If we had a clean bill to fairly regulate intoxicating hemp, we could have voted on it months ago, years ago. There are so many common sense things that we all agree on, and when the majority brings forward a clean bill, we'll be happy to vote for it," he says. The 2018 Farm Bill says hemp can be grown legally if it contains less than 0.3% THC, and State Representative DJ Swagerden, Republican from Huron, was planning on introducing amendments to the bill's hemp provisions during Tuesday's committee meeting, but that didn't happen since the meeting was canceled. The American Republic Policy worked with Swagerden on the amendments, which would have allowed licensed hemp companies in Ohio to continue to operate their retail stores and create a unified regulatory framework for hemp and marijuana products, said Dakota Sawyer of American Republic Policy. And in a quote, "The same regulations that would apply to marijuana under the Ohio Administration Code would apply to hemp products as well," he said. "We are ensuring that we do not have state-sanctioned monopolies in the state of Ohio, and that federally legal hemp products can be accessed through independent businesses, and that they would not be forced to go into dispensaries," he said. Sawyer said forcing hemp products into only dispensaries would eliminate market competition, and in a quote says, "We want to ensure that there are options out there for people to ensure that they are able to purchase what they love, what they would want, and to ensure that we don't have state-sanctioned monopolies," he said. State Representative Jennifer Gross, Republican from Westchester, said 3,000 hemp businesses would close if SB 56 passes, as is currently stands, with hemp products only being sold in dispensaries. And in a quote says, "We need to reward the good actors," she said. "We need to ID check our hemp products when it is consumable, and we also need to allow these businesses to stay open." Wesley Bryant, company owner of 420 Craft Beverages in Cleveland, said he already does many of those things that are outlined in the proposed amendment, and in a quote says, "Every square inch of my facility is fully covered by cameras," he said. "We have a full track and traceability of everything that comes into my facility, and we even go as far as to double check IDs, and my doors stay locked throughout the day. You have to be buzzed in order to enter the facility." DeWine and various lawmakers have expressed safety concerns for children when it comes to hemp products, but Sawyer said the average age of an Ohio hemp customer is 40 years old. In a quote, "It's not geared towards children," Sawyer said. "What some legislators have done is created this mythological boogeyman that says that all these hemp people are doing all these crazy things that are attracting to minors. And essentially, we're saying, let's punish the bad actors that are doing that, but let's not punish the good guys for that." But Adrienne Robin, Deputy Executive Director of Ohio Cannabis Coalition, better known as OCAN, said Ohio children are being put at risk by intoxicating hemp products, in a quote. "It's a sad day for all Ohioans that we're going to continue to see the illicit products be sold in our state over the summer," she said. "These products are being marketed to children specifically," she said. "I think the hemp industry is really good at pulling a few good actors out and highlighting them, but the reality is the majority of these products are illicit," she says. Sawyer said she would prefer to see the legislation as two separate bills, one with marijuana regulations and a separate with hemp regulations. And marijuana and hemp are totally separate in terms of the industry and products, he said. Well, even though it's all cannabis sativa L at the end of the day, what do y'all got to say about this? Ohio, the Buckeye State. Man, oh man, oh man.
Well, it sounds like the voters said what they wanted to have happen. Don't use.
Yep.
And they trusted the legislature to be able to do this, and there's the problem. Can't trust these son of a bitches to find their ass with both hands, let alone put together a comprehensive bill would handle cannabis sativa L. Okay, it needs to be a comprehensive bill. If you want to break off hemp from marijuana, whatever you want to define that, that's one thing. But I don't see them doing that. These are the factions fighting, and I would defy anyone to bring forward a death from consuming cannabis.
Yeah.
And stop bringing, riding that hobby horse, the hobgoblin of, the children. No one's ever died from that. And they was traditionally given to kids for a number of reasons. No one's ever died, doesn't cause cancer, all these things. And if you back up to 30,000 feet and pull out tobacco and alcohol and go, these are legal, how many of them kill people? And I take my grandkids to the store, we're looking at something, and right behind them is the fucking alcohol aisle, where you can find scotch and tequila and wine and all that shit right there. So there's so many inconsistencies and hypocrisies involved here. I just think that our legislators are letting voters down. If you tell them, hey, I want you to have legal cannabis for adults in this state, and they're fighting amongst each other about definitions and stupid shit like that, maybe you need to vote them out. Get rid of these son of a bitches.
It sounds like a lot of them have trips planned for the 4th of July, and they're not trying to be stuck in session.
Yep.
We're kind of on a summer break down here in Tejas. They're calling it a special session, but they've been in special session before. We know the drill. But it's interesting to hear that statement by the OCAN person villainizing hemp. That was unexpected on my end. Not at all what Texas Cannabis Collective would have said something completely opposite. I think the reason why they want the separate bills, Dale, is because those who have gone the hemp way they don't want to pay there's a licensing fee, I imagine, some other things, and they don't want to be overly regulated
or overly taxed.
Or overly taxed, as would be in the marijuana industry. And since the OCAN made so clear that these are very distinct though scientifically they're not, then I could understand why the hemp industry would like to be treated differently and distinctly, and not to mention regulate marijuana, and then we'll do hemp in a separate bill.
Not to mention, Shaun, not to mention too, at the same time, with the hemp industry, when they're selling THCA, they can sell it in eighths and they don't have to sell it in tenths in Ohio.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The THCA, that's the THCA flower is is largely the argument. It's not really that people are really gung-ho holding on to their THCP or THCO. Like, everybody wants to sell the real deal. And the hemp folks are, but legal definitions matter. And when you get overly regulated into a definition, then you have bought into that system and you're subject to it. That doesn't mean we want to vacuum in everything else, although it still needs smart and safe regulation. Hopefully we can pull folks out of that really overly regulated system that the legislators apparently can't even make decisions on. That's for y'all. Like, that's not how it should be. We don't want to, because sometimes progress might look like it's going backwards, but it's still going forward. Like, we can't go back to everyone can't start where California started. And using these other state models as this is how it's done. We got to fix that whole problem.
Yep.
Ohio sounds like a real bag of tricks over there. Good luck to anybody who's fighting on either side. It's really unfortunate that you guys are pitted against each other. And I will say hats off to Texas for not doing that.
Any thoughts on this, Jenny Beth, Ohio?
Nope. I already gave you my thoughts. This is absolutely stupid, but all right.
Fair enough. Well, on that, Dale, I guess we're going to sign off and say thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested, and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai somewhere in the metaverse somewhere. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.